What is up, everyone? Pony Lover 1989 here, and do you guys remember when I talked about the video game franchise Pokemon? Well, Part 1 has reached 7 views, Part 2 reached 6 views, and so does Part 3, and Part 4 and Part 5 has reached 12 views and 1 like, and the 6th part has reached 6 views and 1 like, and the final part is 15 views and 50% 1 like. Well, remember when the last part was when I stopped is remember the last part when I talked about the final game Sword and Shield version? Well, anyway, I'm going to make this either a final part after part 7, because I'll be talking about more I'll be talking about more plots of the next 2 Pokemon games. Okay, the next one is Pokemon Legends Arceus, which is a prequel to the Diamond and Pearl series. Now, Pokemon Legends Arceus is an action role-playing game developed by Game Freak and published by Nintendo and the Pokemon Company for Nintendo Switch. It is part of the 8th generation of the Pokemon video game series and serves as the prequel to Pokemon Diamond and Pearl version. It was first announced as part of the 25th anniversary event on February 2021 and was released worldwide on January 28, 2022. As it was during a Pokemon Presents video presentation back in 2021. The game follows the protagonist, of either a boy or girl depending what you're playing as, sent back through time as they travel through Hisui region, based on the Japanese island of Hokkaido during an early Japanese colonization. Hisui was before it was Sinnoh region, centered around exploration of the region's several open areas populated with Pokemon. The objective is to complete a roster of the region's Pokédex, the game's objective is to complete a roster of the region's Pokemon, known as a Pokédex. When the game was released on January 28th, it was a commercial success, having sold over 13.91 million copies by September 30th, 2022. Pokemon Legends Arceus was a critical success, receiving generally favorable reviews and being nominated for several end-of-the-year awards, including the Best RPG at the Game Awards. Okay, the setting. The game is set in a bygone era of the Sinnoh region's history, when it was known back then as the Hisui region, long before the events of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl and their remakes Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl take place. Hisui is based on the real-life Japanese island of Hokkaido during the Muromachi period, when it was still known as the Ezo period, with new settlers from other regions interacting with natives in a parallel with the interaction between Hokkaido's Ainu people and Japanese settlers. The Ainu groups are represented in the game by the Diamond and Pearl clans, while new mainland settlers were represented by the Galaxy Expedition Team. The vast majority of the region is covered in sparse open wilderness populated by wild Pokemon, with only one significant settlement in addition to a number of small campsites. Unlike this in the setting of the previous Pokemon games, Pokemon were treated as wild animals or forces of nature instead of as companions or partners. The Pokeballs in the game were made from apricorn fruit and puff steam when a Pokemon is caught, instead of being presented as high-tech devices like in the previous installments, while the Pokédex is a paper notebook. The game starts with the player, either a boy or a girl, depending what you're playing as, speaking with a disembodied voice, identified as the mythical Pokemon Arceus, the creator deity of a Pokemon universe, which tasks the player with encountering all the Pokemon in the Hisui region before transporting the player there through a rift in the space-time continuum. The player was then found by a researcher, Professor Laventon, who brings the player to a local settlement named Jubilife Village. There, the player is recruited into a survey corps of the Galaxy Expedition Team, a group of people that have arrived in Hisui to chart and study the region. After receiving his or her starter Pokemon, the player proceeds to travel through the Hisui region to complete the Pokédex. Throughout the player's journey, the space-time rift had been transported through different results in several powerful noble Pokemon venerated by the local Diamond and Pearl clans, turning berserk through powerful lightning, forcing the player to engage them in battles using bombs to calm them down. After the player defeats the 5 novel Pokemon, including Kleavor, Lilligant, Hisuian Arcanine, Hisuian Electrode, and even Hisuian Avalugg, the space-time rift begins to worsen rather than calm down as per the Galaxy team's expectations, and then the sky turned an ominous red. Blamed for the instability, the player, who came through the same rift, was banished from the village by Commander Kamado, leader of Galaxy Team, and is forced to travel the region again to address the cause of the rift. Working with either the Diamond and or Pearl clans under the care of a folklore researcher called Kagita, the player then travels through 3 major lakes of the region to encounter the legendary lake guardian Pokemon Azelf, Mesprit, and Uxie, the 3 beings that embody willpower, emotion, and knowledge, respectively. And once the player passes their trials, the 3 provide materials to craft the red chain needed to stop the rift. After defeating Commander Kamado in a Pokemon battle at the summit, the player then reaches to the peak of Mount Coronet, the Temple of Sinnoh at the center of the region. Depending on the clan the player works with, either Dialga if you're working for the Diamond clan, or Palkia if you're working for the Pearl clan, appears first, breaks the red chain, and then was caught by the player before their enraged counterpart emerges. Using the fragments of the red chain, a special Pokeball capable of capturing the other legendary Pokemon is crafted, called the Origin Ball. The player battles the legendary Pokemon in its origin form and capturing it, sealing the space-time rift. After beating the game, there is a post-game. The player teams up with Volo, the member of the Ginkgo Guild, the merchant group who assisted the player throughout the game, to seek out all the plates associated with Arceus. Through this journey, the player encounters a number of other legendary Pokemon, each one holding a plate. Arriving at the Temple of Sinnoh for the last plate, Volo then betrays the player and attempts to steal the plates from the player to draw out Arceus and subjugate it to make a new world. Volo also reveals he allied himself with Giratina to open space-time rift in a failed attempt to drive out Arceus, sending the legendary caught at the end of the game mad. The player then tries to defeat Volo and Giratina, securing the final play, and transforming the player's Celestica flute into an Azure flute. Once all the other Pokemon, excluding the mythical Shaman and Darkrai, which are only obtainable with the save data of the other video games that have been captured, the player can play the Azure Flute at the Temple of Sinnoh to encounter Arceus. After the player proves themselves in battle, Arceus bestows upon them a part of itself so that it may explore the world that it created by the player's side. As I said, when the game came out in January 28, 2022, it was a commercial success and it was nominated for the End of the Year awards. I remember playing this game. Okay, so the last game I'm going to be telling you about is Pokemon Scarlet and Violet versions. And They were released in November 18, 2022 for Nintendo Switch. The game takes place in an open world unlike previous Pokemon installments. It takes place in the Paldea region, which based on the real-world continent of the Iberian Peninsula in Europe. There are 3 separate stories the player can complete. Scarlet and Violet version introduced 110 new species of Pokemon, along with 2 new regional forms. Also introduced are time-displaced creatures known as the Paradox Pokemon and the Terrestrial phenomenon, which allows the Pokemon to transform into its exclusive Terra type. The game maintains features from the previous modern Pokemon games, including large open areas and Pokemon appearing in the overworld. The games have received both the mixed reviews by the critics. They were praised for their open world formula and story, while the graphics and technical problems have launched received criticism. But the game sold over 10 million copies in the first 3 days, making them the biggest launch of all time, and 22 million copies by March 2023. The upcoming DLC parts are coming soon, according to E3 and Pokemon Presents, the presentation that is based on Nintendo Direct. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet were set in the Paldea region of the Pokemon universe, which appears loosely based on the real-world continent of Iberian Peninsula in Europe. The region features a diverse landscape, including lakes, wastelands, and mountain ranges. A large crater named the Great Crater of Paldea lies in the center of the region, formed by a meteor strike centuries before the events of the game. Inside the crater is this area called Area Zero, where the terrestrialization phenomenon was first discovered. The region is divided into 20 different areas, 6 located in the south and 3 located in the east, 4 located in the west and 7 located in the north. The areas differ in Pokemon, some only seen in specific parts of the region. Small islands and rock formations are scattered throughout the region's lakes and borders. The storyline. In both the versions of the game, Scarlet and Violet version, the player character, either a male or a female you have to play as, attends either Naranja in Scarlet version or Uva Academy in Violet version. The Academy has an annual treasure hunt in which the students are encouraged to seek the something they treasure by exploring the Paldea region. After encountering either legendary Pokemon Koraidon or Miraidon, who joins and assists the player despite having lost its ability to battle, the player is encouraged to participate in 3 different story modes: Victory Road, Starfall Street, and Path of Legends. In the Victory Road storyline, Nemona, the champion-ranked trainer that rivals the player, frequently battles them throughout their journey, asks that they will compete in all of the Paldea region's Pokemon gyms. After they defeat the gym leaders of each gym, they can reach the champion rank by defeating the region's Elite Four and top champion trainer Geeta. After becoming champion rank, Nemona will challenge the player to one final Pokemon battle. Starfall Street is a storyline where the player helps a shy schoolgirl named Penny, who stands up against Team Star, a group responsible for academy bullying, when Cassiopeia, the founder of Team Star and the secret identity of Penny, enlists them for Operation Starfall, which aims to force Team Star to disband by defeating all 5 of the squad bosses, stripping them of their authority within the group. They are assisted by Academy Director Clavel, who is aiming to discover the origin of Team Star while disguised as a student named Clive, and Penny, who wants to monitor the player in person in addition to guiding them as Cassiopeia. They learn that Team Star was founded to counter bullying rather than cause it, and them confronting their bullies 18 months prior caused the bullies to drop out and several Academy staff members to resign. After defeating all the squad bosses, Penny meets the player in the schoolyard to reveal her identity and challenge them to a Pokemon battle. After her defeat, Clavel removes his disguise and offers peace with Team Star, though he subjects its members to community service as punishment for several violations.